just being overwhelmed with scrapers and a lot of construction, edge to edge homes, high square footage. But I am noticing that trees are being protected in this process, on the, whether it's on the right of way or actually within the lot. And I'm wondering if that's a city requirement now.
Honestly, I don't know, but I do think that that's really great. I do know that there was some pushback because of the rapid development our city is experiencing right now, against kind of cutting down trees to build and expand and everything. And so I don't know if it's officially, oh, Lynn Brown said it is a city requirement. Thank you, Lynn.
Love it. Even small trees, young trees have chicken wire around them.
That's awesome.
Yay, Denver.
All right. Anybody else? I think it's probably about a good time to wrap up. And once again, we are going to be doing a program in June, on June 8th, on Denver's urban tree canopy. Mike Swanson, who I don't believe is on the call, but was registered for this. We're going to talk to him, and he was on last year, and they were talking about the tree forestry program that they were the urban forestry report that they were starting to work on. So we're hopefully going to get an update on that as well. But thank you very much, Haley. And then if you have any links to anything that you could throw in the chat for folks, especially for the upcoming tree sale and Denver Digs, that would be great. And we'll probably reach out and have you come back, or somebody from Denver, the park people as well, in June.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks. Theron, do you want me to, can you share your screen then?
Sure.
Okay. I can give you a little intro too, Theron. Yep. Theron, I hope you take a minute to talk about your extensive involvement in that is way beyond what I could talk about to intro you. But Theron's been around for a while and done a lot of climate action efforts in the city. And so I hope Theron will give you a little bit of his background, but we're very excited that he could be on tonight to talk about a platform that's, kind of a grassroots effort this spring to really work on pushing some climate issues here in Denver. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Theron.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be in front of a group like this of all the expertise. I know a lot of you already. Good to see a lot of new faces too. Some ancient history on me is I moved to Denver in 2006 and planted my first tree over on Sherman Street on a lot that was completely raised to put up a triplex, and it was totally bare when I got there. So the first thing I had to do was put a tree on it. This barcode or QR code you see on there, you can scan it like you do in the restaurant, and you can get access to these slides so you have them afterwards. I know whenever I present like this, the first thing people say is, can I have that slide deck? So that's your way to get them there. I'll also have another one popping up later to allow you to download the platform we're talking about. So I've been involved with kind of the green scene in Denver since I lived in Platt Park back in the 2000s. I was on the Platt Park Green teams. One of the first things we did is walked around dropping off LED light bulbs at people's houses. But since then, I've been involved in a lot of climate activity because to me, climate's one of the most important things, and everything else is related to that. Without a good climate or a continuous climate, then everything suffers, including biodiversity, the trees themselves, even people, and the climate change unfairly burdens those of us least able to do anything about it. The unhoused, people without the means to compensate. In Denver, it's amazing how many people don't have air conditioning. So climate was a thing that I learned early on was a overriding factor. I went down the path of sustainability, water. I was in a lot of different organizations trying to find my spot, and climate's where it kind of came together. I've been on the city of Denver's climate sustainability committees since 2015 in different capacities. I'm currently on the energy committee with Keith and a few others of you that are on here. I know a lot of you volunteer a lot for the city, and thanks for all the effort. I know it's a big lift for everyone, and it takes a lot of volunteering. It takes a lot of people like yourself giving of themselves to make this work. And there's a lot of people who aren't involved, who can't be involved because of their life's demands and serious things. So I give credit to them too for just being able to survive in the climate we've created, both economically and from a ecologically too. So today I'm going to go through a little history of how we got to this platform, and then talk about this platform not extensively. I just want you to know what it is and what it's not, so you can make an assessment yourselves. I'll give you good links. You can read it and catch up and figure out if Inc. wants to be a part of this or support it. You can support pieces of it. You can use it as a handbook for yourselves. It's meant to be pretty versatile. So with that, let me get into it. Was anyone able to use the barcode to get the slides? All right, thanks. Now I just got to figure out how to advance my slides on this platform. There we go. So I want to talk a little bit about the Climate Protection Fund and the Climate Action Task Force that some of you were on. I was a big part of that for a big part of my life. Actually, took a couple years off work to work on this and to make sure this got through to fruition. But the Climate Protection Fund is the $40 million that the city raised through taxpayer dollars. It was citizens led. It started in 2019 and took, a good 2 to 3 years to get through the process. And a lot of what the volunteers and the people who were involved in this did was from years of trial and error, a lot more error than trial maybe. And then against a lot of forces that didn't want this to happen for whatever reason, where they didn't want to spend the money on it or didn't think it was important or had other interests that were more important than this. So the people that were involved in this really kind of reached a climax back in 2018 when the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said that we have to drop our emissions in half by 2030. That woke everybody up. It kind of gave a rallying cry, and several groups came together. Joel Clark, City Councilman Clark, was a key figure in joining those forces together. And from that, and I'm not getting all the details there, it turned into a Climate Action Task Force that put a ballot initiative on the ballot that won with 64% of the vote to enact a $40 million climate tax. And that tax will go up as the city's revenues go up. That tax goes up with there. So out of that, the new climate committee was formed. Actually, it's an office in the government or in the city. There's an executive director that's in charge of that now. All those positions were created as a result of this Climate Protection Fund. And now the city is one of the leaders in the country in climate. But for all they're doing, it's still not enough. And as we were looking at this mayor's campaign that were coming up, we started looking at the previous administration and saying, where are all the places we went wrong? Where could we do better to really move the needle on climate? And as we started talking to other groups, we realized it wasn't just the climate action teams, it was the water team, the food team, the parks people. Everyone had a similar experience with this administration, that they went through very detailed task force, a lot of people giving their hearts and their time to come up with action plans that were never either funded or acted on or adopted or embraced. And so that brought us to this topic that I want to talk to you about tonight. Oh, I threw one other slide in here too, because I always like to give some background on this about Denver's greenhouse gas emissions and where they're from. I just want to hit on that real quick, a little bit of climate plug here. But I want to show you this inner circle in here and show you that electricity and natural gas are our two biggest polluters there. We all use those, but I always like to point to the other side of that and say Xcel Energy delivers all that to us. So we have a single source that delivers that. So there is a place we can concentrate. The other side of the transportation is mostly gasoline, as you see in this outer circle, some diesel. But whenever you lose sight of, what's going on with greenhouse gas emissions, you can kind of look at this circle, and I gave you a link to that in this presentation where you can find that. It breaks things down for you. But one thing that's coming up, and it's in this document, is we have an agreement with Xcel that is a funding agreement, a monopoly agreement, and that's coming up during the next mayor's term. So it was one of the other things that sparked this involvement of all these groups to get together is, hey, let's try to influence a mayor that's going to stand up to Xcel and do the right thing for the community and not for someone else's business. So here's the barcode that will take you to this platform. The platform is actually only a 3-page letter. And a lot of organizations came together, as I said, to do that. I'm going to show you those organizations. I'm going to jump through the letter rather quickly, and then I'm going to open it up for discussion, because I think that's the best way to bring out what was going on here. So this was the end of the letter, and the people who signed on to this. Thank those of you who are on this list, or your organizations who are on this list. It's a wide range of groups. It's not inclusive of any way. There's a ton more people that would have want to be on this and put this together. But these were the groups that had the resources and the history to be able to throw all this into one document so that we didn't miss something and that we had a pretty good document. One thing that governed this was a commitment to equity, environmental justice. I love the opening to your meeting where you talk about these things, and all these groups are very vested in this and wanted to make sure that this platform considered this first and foremost of everything else. This platform doesn't try to prescribe the solutions, but more presents what solutions were already out there and what groups would need to come together to present or to accelerate the next administration's foray into this area. So next I'll go into the different areas of the platform. There's a climate mitigation section, and mainly what we're asking for is for the next mayor to support the previous Climate Action Task Force recommendations from 2020. Part of that is raising $200 million a year. The existing tax only raises 40. And then part of it is these top 2 goals here, reducing greenhouse gas emissions 65% by 2030. That's what the fair amount is for Denver to reduce by to meet that IPCC panel's goals. And then 100% by 2040. Denver should have the means to do that, and it needs to move in that direction. Most of the direction that Denver's moved on those numbers right now has come from Xcel moving to renewables, mostly through the electricity supply. All the other efforts we're doing have not moved the needle that far, and the city needs to act more. So that's one of the simple recommendations. Down here for land use and transportation, there's other plans that have been out there for years. The Denverite plan and the Denver Streets Partnership plans already prescribe what needs to happen. We don't need to put a new task force together to start over and delay this action another 2 or 3 years, which is what has been happening with the current administration. So that's kind of the the gist of this letter is to say, you already have the plans. Will you commit to funding and implementing these immediately upon being elected? And we're also not trying to endorse a candidate. We're trying to get as many candidates as we could to adopt this so that whoever does get elected has this commitment in place. Here's one on food. There's a Denver Food Action Plan that I know was, I think, 3 years in the making to put that together. Very well thought out. It commits not only to food, but to the waste from the food and what needs to go on. Moving on to waste, there's a sustainable resource management plan that's pretty recent that came out. And so we're asking for them to follow that plan. A lot of these plans did include equity and injustice in those and have already been built into these, but it's not saying we don't have more ways to go in that area. There's a water plan, the Denver One water plan from 2021. And then I copied the whole parks and open space section because it's pretty near and dear to all our hearts, and had a ballot initiative that was shot down that was in this interest. And just wanted you to be able to read this and see this. I can read this real quickly if you want, or you can read it. But it essentially ticks off the things we all want is, hey, save parks within 10-minute walk. We need to connect the neighborhoods together, both neighborhoods of people and neighborhoods of habitat and wildlife. Minimize sprawl where there's natural development, but provide density where it's needed to do both sides of the equation. And then one final plug at the bottom for our mountain parks and the special place that Denver is, and be able to, there's a special obligation to preserve that and make sure it's there for the next generations. So that's my overview of the platform. And I'll go back to the original slide here so that you can click on that barcode if you want, and we can have a discussion. So Harmony, I see you're first on questions.
I have less of a question and more of a comment. Just a really big thank you to Theron for all this and putting this together and the years of work that he's put into these things. And he is incredibly right. There have been I talked to so many people across so many departments, and a woman who just left the planning department because she was tired of kicking rocks under her desk. We've done so many task force, we've done so many plans, and Denver is so poised to do amazing, great things with the right leadership that we have not had. And I'll say what Theron won't. I don't know a whole lot of people who are excited about either of these two candidates, but a lot of people feel like there's a lesser evil. And I think it's really important that we support all the city council people that we can that are pro-environment, and to continue to come together as much as we can to really advocate for these things in these times. So, and a big thank you to Jane and everyone on this call. That's it.
Tara?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say I love this platform, and thanks for all the work that you did. Perry sent it to me. I think it's wonderful. And I know you reached out and sent it out to all the candidates for mayor and city council, and, either everyone or almost everyone, and said they support it. But that's very different than actually really getting it and doing the work. And I'm wondering if you all are planning to meet with the two candidates for mayor in particular, but also there's runoffs. Like I'm in District 10 and there's a runoff right now. If there's plans to get the group of people who put this together and others who might be supportive to meet with the candidates before the election and just have a conversation and kind of lay the groundwork of, here's this amazing group of environmentalists. Even if we're here to help and support you, and we've done the work, we've laid you the groundwork, and we want to work with you to make sure this happens. Is there a plan to do that meeting, or has that meeting already those meetings happened?
Those meetings haven't happened because we are waiting for the final vote. We didn't, want to spread ourselves too thin because it's not as big a group as you think. You know, it's probably about as many people as the name that's on those lists of the organizations, just because everyone's so busy on other things. So yes, we plan to do that. We would hope that each of you could take a piece of this and bring it to the candidates, something you're passionate about, and this could empower you to have the right collateral behind you to say, hey, what about the Denver water plan? Do you plan to support that? An easy question like that in a panel discussion or an audience question would be very powerful in this space. So yes, to all that. And then from the city council districts, we have not engaged as much with them, but we know a lot of them already, and a lot of them are big supporters. So whatever you could do to help us would be appreciated. And we will be doing as much as we can to get that word out.
Okay, just so you know, and I'll just give you the push for what Theron just said. So I went to a lot of, I went to at least 3 of the mayoral candidates events, either at houses or coffees. And actually one of the finalists, I got to spend like 40 minutes just chatting because there's only like 3 of us at the coffee, and there was 2 of us were environmentalists who showed up. So I think there's a lot of space to have these conversations individually, but I also do think it's a good idea to kind of get a group of people, like a Zoom group, and say, hey, we're all back in this, and we're hoping you're going to pull through on this, because so much of the focus of the election was on the issue of homelessness, affordable housing, and crime, which are all 3 really important issues. But then environment, every single meeting, everything I went to, I raised environment because I didn't feel like it was getting talked about. But anyway, thank you for all the work that you have done and continue to do.
No, and thank you. And that's the right attitude, is to keep those small conversations going. Always bring up environment in these things. Never think it's not important enough. So thank you. Lynn Brown.
Yeah, thanks. I was wondering, when you put everything together, whether or not the urban forest was a topic of discussion. I noticed in reading through it, and because I've read through the document several weeks ago, and I think it is a great document, but I didn't see very much on the urban forest other than maybe a couple bits of sentences in a couple of the areas.
There's a specific sentence in there that says to completely build out the urban forest. Because I remember debating on that, and we put that in. It's like the second sentence under one of the topics. I can look for it at the end here when I get it.
No, that's okay. I just didn't know if, I guess.
I think it might just say trees instead of urban forest, but that was the intent.
I think it does say trees.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just, with the way that the other things are emphasized, with all the headings and whatnot, I just didn't know if any thought had been given to the urban forest as another kind of paragraph.
We couldn't put a paragraph on every important topic, was the thing. So we tried to give all these things equal weighting, but explain them in enough detail that someone would know what they were. So, some of the topics may seem short, but it was to make sure that they're checked off and covered when someone goes to enact this. What we view is when a new mayor would come into place, they would call people together and get the right people in the room to talk about each one of these topics, but there's just so many of them.
Sure. Thanks.
Perry?
Hey, great job there. And I guess I have more of a comment, and that is the recent IPCC report, which was alarming to say the least, identifies the next 8 years as the window that we have. Given Denver's history, the next mayor will be leading us for the next 8 years. And cities are the laboratories by which we invent solutions. They also are responsible for figuring out how federal money is spent to solve these problems. So anybody who thinks that the problem is bigger than a mayor just needs to think about it just a little bit more. Given that, and the gosh, I think all of us who decided to show up tonight were alarmed at the lack of mention in the campaign leading up to this moment about climate change and the causes of climate change's relationship to the problems that we see in terms of equity. So they're all interrelated. And I guess I want to say that all of us can hound Kyle Clark, can figure out where the debates are, can call our own councilman even now and just say, from now till June 4th, like beat the drum, raise the volume. These are the questions on our mind. Talk to us. What do you think? We have two candidates who are very, very similarly like positioned on the spectrum of left, right, progressive, whatever, mainstream. But I think they're both open to listening and learning and leading, and they need to learn from us about how important it is to us. So I just encourage all of us to, tag, I don't know even how to do all of this, but figure out Kyle Clark, whoever's doing the debates, lead your own debates, contact the candidates' offices yourself and inundate them with questions about, okay, we know where you stand on these other important issues that are immediate and dear to us. But if we don't solve climate change, there's, they will be always in our face for 7 generations to come. So that's all I wanted to say.
No, thank you. That's great. And another point along those lines is get people out to vote, because the small number of people that voted is going to be even smaller for a runoff. So, and also I always like to tell people the campaign or the voting starts May 15th. It's not June. I forget the election day now. 4th. It's really May 15th that starts because of mail-in ballots. So there's a big surge of mail-in votes, people that vote as soon as that mail-in ballot comes. So get the word out there and make sure your climate friends are voting. Jane?
Hi, Theron. It's good to see you, even if you're only about an inch square on my screen here. Nice job tonight. I can share that I have worked representing INC, putting together questions for candidates for the Channel 8 debates. And I did that on the first go round, and I'm doing it again now. And I've prefaced everything that I've done saying that we've already talked about the homeless, we've already talked about the sweeps, we've already talked about safety. We really need to talk about climate. And I've got 3 questions in each of these, and we'll just hope that they get at least one of them into the mix for each of those runoff things that Channel 8 is doing.
And thank you for that. And another anecdote, I don't know if it was anyone on this team or not, but someone got 2 of our questions into the Kyle Clark written interviews. They weren't asked in a panel or anything, but where they summed up all these answers in written format. 2 of our questions were in there, so that was great to see. I see Gertie next.
I want to thank you and thank Jane and all of you who have worked so hard on this issue. I'm kind of overwhelmed by the breadth of all this and the complexity of it all. And so my sort of 80-year-old tree hugger reaction is to say, what can I do beside vote and become educated, but what can I do in my neighborhood? And I guess because I'm really fortunate, I live in a neighborhood that has walkable sidewalks set back from the street. We have street trees that are not terribly well maintained, at least in parts of the neighborhood. And people seem to think that landscaping increasingly is putting rocks out there, which doesn't help trees. But I just, when there was one thing that sticks in my mind when I saw in the thing about a resilient city, about there being a park 10 minutes away. I live in what I consider, at least the statistics show, is a fairly affluent neighborhood. we don't have a park 10 minutes away. Washington Park is more than 10 minutes away, and so is the park to the west of me in the Baker neighborhood. But what I do have is walkable streets that are lined with trees. And that to me is where I walk. I don't drive or bike or whatever to Wash Park. And I think what I really am hoping that can come out of some of this, and I can't say that I see it here, is that if we have tree-lined streets in our city, we will be doing a whole lot for the next generation. And it's not just planting new trees, it's maintaining the trees that we already have, because that's where the wonderful benefits that Haley talked about come from. It's not just the new little babies that we plant and nurture and love and take out and protect with little, whatever's we do to keep the dogs from peeing all over them. It's taking care of the trees that are there now and encouraging them to keep the air cleaner and to keep our city cooler. And that's just my comment.
Yeah, I would, to some of your question about what you can do is I think go help other neighborhoods to become what yours is. Some of those neighborhoods where Haley was talking about, I planted some trees last year up there in the Globeville neighborhood, and just amazing how different a neighborhood is with no trees and how hot it is and how bad it feels. And those people don't have a park within 10 minutes and they don't have trees in their streets. So the more empathy we can have to help people like that out, I think the more we can do. And even if you just go to an event and help them serve lemonade to the workers or things that way, it really connects community and it's contagious. So anything we can do that way helps a lot. So thanks for your comments. Ryan's next.
Hey, Theron, thanks for taking the lead on this. Full disclosure, I helped write part of the waste section, but my
Thank
question
you so
is,
much.
Certainly, it's what I love to do. My question is about accountability. It's easy for elected officials to make big promises when they're running for office, but once they're elected, that's when we see folks flip-flop, whether it's at the federal level or local. So my question is about accountability. How is this platform going to continue through the years, and how can we hold elected officials accountable for what they signed on to?
That was part of our strategy. So by having these candidates' names on another list, I forgot to link that one in there, but I think there's a way you can get to that other list. There's a site that has, I'll send it to Keith afterwards, that has all the candidates who endorse this. And we can call them on the carpet afterwards and say, look, you signed this, now it's time to enforce this or take action on this and back this up. And I think that's one of the biggest ways we can do that. And then by having all of us team together, we're a bigger voice out there that we don't let them get away with it. When we're small and individual, if we're just water or we're just food or one of the others, not to make those seem small, but when you include everything together into a larger sustainability group that includes all those, it's a lot more powerful voice to push these elected officials. So thanks for the question, Ryan. And I'll say we did have some success even with the existing mayor, and we did get him to make a couple of those commitments to 100% by certain dates, and that did push things down the road. So it worked not as quickly as we wanted to. Keith, it looks like you're next.
Awesome. Thanks again, Theron, for all of this. This was a great presentation. I think really tied a lot of things together for a lot of folks. I did want to just point out another resource, and I dropped it in the chat. Inc. put out a survey earlier this spring for all the candidates running for office for both city council and for mayor. And we put the answers to their survey questions together online. And kudos to Maggie Price and Greg Sorensen for doing the back end of all this. But it talks about, it doesn't get into the climate stuff as much, but there were questions on neighborhood planning initiatives, regional park planning, parks and open space, Blueprint Denver, transportation issues. And they're both of the mayoral candidates have answered questions. So it really gives you a nice kind of look at some different thoughtful answers instead of just kind of quick debate answers that we see a lot. Once again, it's in the chat, and I'm happy to post it there, or we can send this out like from our committee as an email as well.
No, that's great. It's amazing how different wording of the question can bring out different answers and different personalities. You definitely can see people's true personalities when the right question hits them. Sometimes in a positive way, sometimes in a negative way. I'm going to flip back to the beginning to put my phone number up there in the lower left. If any of you want to call me anytime. And once again, this barcode here will get you this presentation, and those links to all the climate stuff are live if you want to click on those and download some of the documents. Looks like there's one more question from Amber.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all the hard work, the amazing presentation. I'm curious if this touched on anything relating to density. I know, there's with what the governor is trying to push through with the new Senate bill regarding density, and how, if you guys looked at how that's going to impact, because I know that, in that bill, it's like, oh, it's going to help the climate. And I'm just curious if you guys did any research or talking about, thoughts on more density.
We talked about the three big issues: safety and homelessness and housing there. And we steered away from those three big topics. So I'd say we didn't do a good job, although density is mentioned in there. And density is one of the best ways to fight climate emissions. So it's kind of in there, but we didn't address it head on. So it's an area where it could use some more work, or we could team with another group who has the expertise there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I've been struggling with that density issue myself in our zoning codes, and all the way back to the Blueprint Denver when we took duplexes out of the single family zoning areas. I thought that was a big mistake, because those weren't the problem. It was the houses that were built out to the sidewalks that were the problem, and somehow those got tagged as duplexes. So yeah, a lot of issues there, and there's both sides forming on the governor's platform, and I don't know which one is the right one yet. And Haley, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, well, I just, my name was mentioned a couple times, so I did just want to say, if it's okay, I did want to mention that the two kind of sides of the coin being talked about, environmental, and then how environmental issues weren't mentioned in the mayoral candidacy race as much. And the focus, of course, we are generally in agreement to affordable housing. I think there's more commonality there than meets the eye. Because I just wanted to mention that when we discuss increasing either resource of tree canopy or park accessibility in historically and systemically marginalized communities, there is a potential to increase property values and therefore potentially cause gentrification in these areas. And so I think perhaps the mayoral race focusing on affordable housing measures is a good way to leverage an ethical greening approach and a good point of agreement or commonality with either potential mayoral candidate. So I think when we're thinking about these two things, they do go together in a pretty significant way. And so just want to mention that, and why community-led greening is really important too, to kind of deter that gentrification piece.
Right, now everything intersects. It's amazing over and over again how those things come together. I'm looking through the chat. There's a few comments in there. Everyone should read the chat. There's a District 7 panel for the mayor's discussion. Maybe it's city council. Fran lists a good book for everybody, A Great and Healthy Yard Project. I think that covers everything. Keith, you got anything else?
Well, yeah, if you want to like, let me have screen share back.
All yours. Thanks for the time,
Perfect.
everyone.
Theron, thank you so much. I think it's been great for everyone to be able to, like I said, get this all kind of wrapped together and have a good understanding of where we're at currently. Can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up? Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So one thing that, we discussed amongst the climate and sustainability group coordinators here on Inc. is whether or not we wanted to open this up for a discussion on whether Inc. should join in endorsing this platform. So if there's any comments about that, feel free, throw them in the chat, or if anybody has anything they'd like to say about whether or not Inc. should, I can just pull up we can take a poll after this, but if there's any comments about whether or not Inc. should endorse this, the process, I can just explain the process now, which has changed a little bit from how Inc. took positions in the past. Is it's a little bit more stringent to make sure that we're actually better representing neighborhoods. So what this would require is, we could take a vote as a committee tonight and then recommend that decision to Inc. At a delegate meeting, where a presentation would need to be made to the delegates of Denver RNOs in endorsing this platform. Then the RNOs would have a month to take it back, the endorsement possibility back to their individual RNOs and discuss with their members, and then come back and delegates would take a vote on it the following month. So we're looking at probably, unfortunately, Inc. doesn't move as fast as some of these other groups. So an endorsement would come from us for this platform in June, would be the earliest that we could do that. And the threshold for reaching a vote needs to be 50% of member RNOs, which is currently, I believe, we're at about 56 RNOs currently in Inc. So that would need to be somewhere, I think, or the high 20s of participating RNOs in that vote. So that's how the process would look. So I just wanted to open this up for any discussion or any words from folks on whether or not they think that Inc. should, this committee should recommend to Inc. to endorse this platform. Lyric?
Yeah, I am not a per se member of the committee, but I think I like a lot of what I'm hearing from Tom, but I think that it would be probably not appropriate to recommend endorsing something that we haven't completely read. So, I mean, I guess if you could postulate it as, let's read this and endorse it if we agree. But I mean, there's a lot in there and we can assume that it's all great, but maybe it's not.
Thanks, Lyric. Did anyone else have any other comments? Judy.
Hi, everyone. What great presentations tonight. The one thing I just wanted to kind of underscore that I heard from Theron was about the need to not invent a new committee, a new platform, a new task force, a new whatever, that the work has been, I'm just so impressed. And I too need to dig into this platform and read it in some depth. Per Lyric's suggestion, that we really do need to inform ourselves about the details, but his point about we've done the hard work, and it's sitting, and the culmination of that across all of these areas is really quite impressive. And it is a roadmap for us to take bold steps. So I'm just really impressed with that effort. Just wanted to throw that up.
Great, thanks, Judy. And I guess I will say that according to our bylaws, I don't believe that there is a membership requirement for committees in order to put forward a motion for the whole delegates to vote on this. So I don't think that we need a committee membership quorum or anything like that to take a straw poll vote. Jane.
Hi, Keith. I've been fortunate that I've had a copy of this platform for the last few months, and I think it's really strong. I think it hits many important areas. And like everybody was saying, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to get action on some of these items and some steps being taken and some money put where these issues are. And it is unfortunate that the rest of you haven't had the platform to read over, but as soon as possible, I think Inc. definitely should take this to our membership and get on that list of supporting organizations.
Thanks, Jane. Amber.
Well, I just I'm looking at the chat and it seems like we've got a lot of yeses, so I just wanted to make a motion to see if we could take a committee vote.
Sure, yeah, and I definitely, would anybody like to second?
I second it. Jane, I second.
Okay. Well, I can put a poll. I've been trying to work on my poll skills, so we'll see if I can do this correctly. I should be able to put a poll up right now that we can take a vote on. Does anybody see that poll?
Look at you. Yes.
Yeah,
Thanks.
all right.
This is Tara again. I'm just going to say something while we're taking the poll.
Sure.
I met with a lot of city council reps when we were working on various different waste issues and diversion. And one of the interesting things I heard from a council rep was, because I said, we have this great platform that was put together by the Climate Action Task Force, right? And you guys supported it. And so we'd love to see you take action on this. And she essentially said, oh, we've got, we supported Blueprint Denver, we supported this, we supported that. They just get, I think they vote on these things and say, great, but then there's no follow through. So it really does take groups and individuals constantly engaging with their city council reps and with the mayor, as often as you can, either by email or Zoom meetings or at coffees or whatever, because I just think they get overwhelmed. They say these are all great ideas, but then they don't actually move the needle on it. They don't actually look at it and say, let's pull this piece out and vote on it, which is why people like Ian Tafoya had to go and get Waste No More passed because the city council just didn't do it. So I guess I would just say we all have to stay on top of this and constantly engaging with our reps and our mayor as much as we can to make it happen.
Great, thanks, Tara. And with that, I'm going to close the poll. Can everybody see the results? All right. So we have 17 yeses and 1 abstain. So with that, I think we can, if folks are comfortable, we can present this to, I believe we need to present it to the board possibly, and then at the delegate meeting in May for an explanation. We'll talk, we'll talk as a committee about how to put that forward and who can do that in the future. But that's great. Let's see, I'm going to stop sharing. So great. I think with that, we're kind of at the end of our, let's see, is my screen still shared?
Yes.
Oh, wait, I do want to, yeah, Jane.
Oh, hi. So I've been thrilled that many of you were able to see the first two films of Watering the West. I think it's really good because it's my daughter who put it together, but at the same time, she's really hit upon some very important understandings of where water comes from, how it is used, how is best to do farming that uses less water and gets better results. This coming Monday, the final film is called Across the Divide. Talks a lot about the Colorado River, talks a lot about people that live on the other side of the divide and how the water is taken from the west to the east. So I invite any of you that have time on Monday night to join us for that third film. And as always, I'm trying to make sure that it gets to the people who need to hear these stories and learn what we can learn about water, because it's such a precious resource. And there's a lot of information in that that helps people understand what we need to do quickly to make some changes. And can I add right now about the Earth Day bit?
Sure, yeah.
So I thought it was important to bring to everybody's attention a few things that are going on with Earth Day. So I reached out to some RNOs, and several of them are doing a cleanup. A lot of them are going to do the cleanup and then gather at the brewery afterward, which is great. But I did have a few specific ones, and I'll put them in the chat. One is the Washington Park, West Washington Park. They're going to do their electronics recycling again. That's for their third year. I've got information here on the park people and their Denver Digs trees on April 22nd. I found a site called Mile High on the Cheap, and it has several events for families to go to, and it looked like a lot of fun things. And then Harmony sent me the information on women and sustainability. So I will post that so you can see how to connect with all of those. And happy Earth Day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jane. And with that, our next meeting is going to be in June, on June 8th. And we are definitely looking for folks that are interested in being more involved. So if I'll put my email in the chat right now. And if you're interested in being more involved with this committee, please let us know. We're trying to kind of get things back up and running for this year. Or reach out to Jane or Amber. The person that, so I am actually like stepping away from leading this committee, and Adam Metzler is going to take over as a co-chair for this committee. But I'll still be around. I think I'm going to try running things for the next year or so. But so there will be a strong sustainability voice at the head of Inc. So.
Well, Keith, can I just thank you for everything that you've been doing on this committee and all the work that you have done as our new president and helping INC do a lot of major things instantly and keeping us on track. I thank you for your leadership and your dedication to not only the issues, but to all of us that are involved. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jane. I think it's going to be a great year for Inc. And I think we're going to do a lot of great things and have a lot of good forums this year, and hopefully get some really great information out to neighborhoods and supporting RNOs.
Keith,
Yeah.
if I could just mention, there's also the Urban Forestry Strategic Plan Survey that is out. I'll put that in the chat. People have until the 1st of May. Everybody probably has seen it already, but just in case they haven't, or could make sure that their neighborhood groups and whatnot have access to it, it would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, and we'll try to include that when we send the newsletter out as well. That link, so folks can comment on that as well. Great. Well, is there anything else that anybody wants to mention? Or I'm looking at the chat and I don't see anything. I do see Lynn's urban forestry link that just went up. Is there anything else? All right, then. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. And if we don't see you before then, hopefully we'll see you all in June.
Great meeting.
Take care.
Great, thank you.
Ciao, everybody.
Thanks, Keith. Great
Yeah.
job.
Let's talk soon, Judy.
Yep.
All right, take care.
Yeah,
See ya.
bye-bye.